Good morning. Welcome to the premium video forecast discussion for Friday, March 22nd, 2024. Well, we've had a very busy week around here. As you know, the CDM has been issued for this meteorologist that you're talking to, and we've had a lot to digest on that. And now we have a rainstorm, and there's a lot of interesting model guidance coming out there producing 2, 3, 4 inch rainfall events. But I also want to show some concern about that not exactly verifying and why. So we're going to take a look at all the data and dive into everything that is evolving with this storm and also another rainstorm, which unfortunately doesn't look so good for opening day for your Mets and Phillies. If you have plans to go to those games, you might want to set up a backup plan and also get details on whether or not how the process goes as far as a rain delay or postponement for those games. I'll explain why in just a moment. Hopefully, it trends a little drier, but we'll get to that in a moment. And of course, also taking a look at the pattern, I mentioned on X that the good news with this weather pattern is that we're going to be moving away from the well below normal temperatures and move towards an environment where more of the Pacific and the air masses from the tropics, like the Gulf Coast, become more of an influence than, say, the northern Canada, Arctic regions of our world. Also, probably want to keep an eye out on the Canadian Maritimes as well, creating some rather raw weather conditions. So let's dive into the data and take a look at what we have here. And of course, I'm kind of layered here because it is kind of chilly out this morning with temperatures ranging between the mid to upper 20s over the northern interior, lower 20s out here towards West Hampton and Long Island is always very chilly. It never fails to radiationally cool and become one of the coolest locations in the northern mid-Atlantic. It did so this morning with temperatures in the teens. The rest of the region ranging from the upper 20s to lower 30s. Again, well below normal for this time of year, making you think like, yeah, we had meteorological spring start, the astronomical spring start with the spring equinox. And yet here we are still dealing with 20s and 30s. But good news, this is going to start to go away. And we're going to talk about why that is the case moving forward. But for right now, we have a rainstorm that's developing. Now, when you take a look at the radar, you can literally see the two pieces of this storm starting to take shape here. You have the uh, polar shortwave here, with the cold air, as you can see, with the snow. And then you have the subtropical shortwave here with the tropical moisture. Notice down here we have some very deep moisture, and of course you have your low pressure system back here. On the infrared satellite picture, it shows up very nicely. There is the polar shortwave with the lifting, and then here's our subtropical shortwave. And again, notice this area of deep moisture that's going to try to push up the coast, and it shows up even more nicely on the water vapor satellite picture. One of my most favorite water tools when it comes to studying meteorology, because you can see all the different short waves and the interacting air masses so nicely. Here on the water vapor satellite picture, you clearly see the shortwave and the subtropical jet stream organizing closed off, very impressive, marching its way due east. And this is the point I want to make. This storm is an interaction between the polar and subtropical shortwave, not a phase. Why is that important? Because this shortwave is going to keep this storm moving. So, because of that, your strongest lifting and also moisture transport is going to have a limited time in terms of moving over the region. Now, the interesting factor here is that yes, there is a short time, but also there is a lot of deep moisture with this because you're getting a moisture source right from the Gulf of Mexico shooting right up the coast. And it's interacting with a Pacific and polar air mass at the same time, trying to push it out. So you have optimal lifting as a result. And that is essentially what we're seeing here in the model guidance here, where By tomorrow afternoon, this is very intense lifting. When you get up into these levels here, that is some very strong vertical velocities. And what we mean by vertical velocities, that is the rate of air moving from the surface up to 500 millibars. So when you have that rapid rising of motion, you could take that moisture at the lower and mid levels, lift it, condense it, and create heavy rainfall. And that's essentially what we're seeing here in this model data. And you could also see that at 700 millibars. Look at that. That's impressive. That is some very impressive lifting. And again, you can focus here right around the Delaware River Valley, right over New Jersey. And I took a zoomed out view here. That way you could see the whole structure of this system. This is the polar short wave. Here's the subtropical short wave out here. Notice not phased, but interacting with each other. Why is that interaction so important? Because as you can see here, out ahead of it, you can set up that moisture transport. That moisture transport is being driven by the subtropical shortwave, and the strong lifting is being driven by the polar shortwave. So the combination of these two leads to the support for basically a fire hose of rainfall from basically the coastal waters. If you wanted to go all the way down to the Bahamas, up the coast and right into the northern mid-Atlantic. So we know we have the lifting involved here. Pretty impressive. Hey, you want to see 850 millibars? It's just as strong. So clearly we've established plenty of strong lifting. What about the moisture? Well, at that same time period, plenty of moisture at 700 millibars, obviously. Plenty of 100% relative humidity at 700 millibars is pretty impressive. Then we talk about the precipitable water values, the amount of water that can be held in the atmosphere. And you could see at the same time period where we have intense lifting, you're getting pretty close between 1.5 and 2 inches right on the I-95 corridor. So this is where I like the potential for your heaviest rainfall right in here. Now, if we get some embedded thunderstorms within this rain shield and it maximizes the precipitable water values, there is an outside shot that you could push up to 4 inches on the I-95 corridor. We're talking about Philadelphia Metro, up to the New York City Metro, counties like Monmouth County, Northern Ocean, Mercer, Morris, locations right around the New York City Metro, obviously, Northeast New Jersey, up through New York City and Long Island. So you have this pitch right here. But at the same time, look how fast it moves. So by 8 p.m., it's off the coast. And our relative humidity crashes from 90% down to almost 10%. So this is going to have a very sharp cutoff. So I think that what you're going to have here is some impressive rainfall gradients depending on where you get some of that convective precipitation setting up with this storm. Now, as far as the moisture transport, this is a great tool here to show integrated vapor transport. What this basically is, from the surface up to 200 millibars, is the transport of moisture. So when you're looking at this, you can see where the source region is and how fast it's being transported up and how fast it's being kicked out. So when we take a look at this, we could clearly see impressive transport driving right up the coast. Very impressive on through tomorrow afternoon. And by tomorrow evening, it's already off the coast and focused over New England. So what this tells us is that this fire hose is not going to be stationary, it's going to be on the move. So now we just have to determine, okay, do we maximize the lifting? And do we maximize the lifting of the precipitable water values? While all this is happening, I know some of you guys are snow lovers out there still. Hey, if you're looking for snow, you're going to have plenty of it in northern New York and northern New England. So head up there as we're talking about feet of snow in those locations with this type of moisture transport. Because while this is all happening, the polar air mass is pressing south and supporting a nice snowfall event. So when we take a look at the European guidance, this is the 06 guidance that just came out. And again, you can see the heavy rainfall setting up. Tonight you'll see increasing clouds and a few isolated showers towards midnight. After midnight, showers become more widespread. By about 4 a.m., you got widespread rainfall and becoming heavier as you move on through the morning. There is that signal of that intense lifting right down here. Now, look what happens in the afternoon hours. It sets up right on the I-95 corridor and lifts through. And again, there's your heavy snow up towards northern New England, where they're going to be measuring the snow in feet. So during this time period, when we're seeing this heavy rainfall tomorrow afternoon, you're talking about rainfall rates of a quarter to possibly half an inch. At times, you're talking about the potential for visibility below 2 miles, major to moderate ponding on the roadways, urban flooding, any type of drainage area is going to get blocked. Small stream flooding also be a threat. Most of the rivers are pretty good in terms of where they're at right now in their water levels. So I don't expect widespread flooding, and this storm does move pretty quickly. Notice again, it kicks out pretty fast here. Okay. And by the evening hours, we start to dry out and clear out. Now, let's take a look at the Mesoscale guidance. This is the NAM guidance. The HRR is a little bit too far out still for me to trust. I like to get it under 18 hours to really trust it. You could go out to 48 hours, but the resolution isn't as good. So it's kind of like using an old HD TV from like 2000 rather than using the new HD now, right? So you want to use the right tool for the right time period. So your HRR, you like to use after under 18 hours out. The NAM, though, is kind of like in its nice little wheelhouse here in terms of giving you an idea of the potential here. And again, here is that convective element that we're talking about here. Now, you never take this stuff verbatim, but what does this tell us? Okay, this tells me that there's going to be a band of very intense rainfall here. If there is, there's also going to be some substance involved. So in this case, they put it over southern New Jersey and they march it right on the I-95 corridor and it moves very quickly out. So basically, once this band hits, it comes through and then we're done. So this is going to be moving pretty fast, pretty good speed here as it clears through. The convective element is going to lead to some areas getting a break in that rainfall, and the worst conditions are likely going to be, let's say, from about noon on through 6 p.m. So if you have any plans of traveling, I would probably wait a bit. And if you're out towards Connecticut and Long Island, I'd hold off even in the evening hours with this heavy rainfall. If you're interested in any type of snowfall potential up towards the Poconos and Catskills, yeah, you might see a little bit of flurries at the end of this, maybe picking up an inch on the highest elevations on some cold surfaces. But really, your snowfall potential is really focused over north central New York and also New England, where, wow, they are going to get just blasted with this storm. So again, ski country, go up there, have fun, but nothing like that around here. Now, the storm clears out pretty fast, and on Sunday it dries out. So what I'm thinking here right now is 2 to 3 inches in this area, 1.5 to 2.5 inches in this area, and in this area, half an inch to an inch. Now, this heavier rainfall clearly depends on where that intense convection sets up, but we'll see how that plays out. But you kind of get the idea here. It's going to be a very wet Saturday afternoon. Now, after this storm leaves, pattern begins to change a little bit. Now, the polar jet stream retracts here. That's going to pull our polar and Arctic air masses to the north. That doesn't mean we won't have polar air masses to interact with, but they'll be moderated and the core of them will be focused more towards central Canada rather than our neck of the woods. But as you can see with the subtropical jet stream, we have an active NGO state during this time period going from phase 7, 8, and then neutral. And so what you end up with in the spring is a very active subtropical jet stream with all these little upper level lows moving around. Upper level lows are a pain in the neck to forecast for because you have to figure out the timing and where the location of the best divergence and effluent sets up and the potential for showers. I say that because when we're taking a look at the forecast towards the end of next week, I know all you baseball fans are interested in that. The formation of this upper level low will strongly depend on how these trough axes interact and the development of each of these individual short waves. As you can see, when you have these type of upper level lows, you end up with a lot of volatility in the details here. So just want to put that out there. But it also means, as you can see on the GFS and on the European ensembles, that yes, it's active, but all your polar air is pulled to the north. So we start to trend more towards near normal temperatures on average as we move on through the end of this month and into early April. So there's at least that good news. But this is going to be a very active pattern, that is for sure, with plenty of these shortwaves moving around and playing potential for rain. And again, this is my point on the 850 millibar temperatures and the polar air masses. Look at the core of this right now. This is where we are right now. This is due to the disruption of the polar vortex that we've been talking about. And there is your Arctic air. Now it starts to get pulled northward because the whole influence of the polar vortex starts to shift and wane, and we start to see a retraction of polar jet stream, which is completely normal for this time of year. And what you end up with is this theme where, yeah, polar air masses can kind of dip their toe in, but they get pulled back very quickly. And your core is back here now, up towards the Arctic rather than towards the Hudson Bay. So as we move forward over the next 10 days, you end up with an influence more from the Pacific with some polar influences, but the core air mass influences from the Pacific with some influences from the Gulf of Mexico and from the Canadian Maritimes. And that is essentially what we're setting up here. Now, when these air masses drop south, they have more of a Canadian maritime influence rather than an Arctic influence, which is up here. Again, when we started, these temperatures were down here. Now they're way up here, so your polar influences with a higher sun angle moderates much quickly. And so what you end up with on average with your temperatures, this is the daily 2 meter temperature anomalies in Fahrenheit. Very important because this is surface and everyone uses Fahrenheit in the United States. So let's just keep it at that. So as you can see here, yeah, we get these little waves. This is through the weekend. There's some bulk of our cold air. Again, pretty impressive, right? Then that starts to go away. And now, as these polar air masses push east, notice they moderate very quickly. And on average, over the northern mid-Atlantic, we're near to slightly above normal. And a lot of these above normal temperatures are going to be more due to the warmer low temperatures setting up in this environment because of the influence from the Canadian Maritimes. But as you can see, this evolution is pretty impressive how it is taking shape. So let's walk through our forecast. Now that we've gotten through all those details. For today, high pressure exits look for increasing cloud cover with high temperatures in the lower to mid 40s over the northern interior and along the coast, upper 40s to lower 50s in the Delaware River Valley. For tonight into tomorrow, rain begins to develop after midnight, becoming widespread tomorrow morning. Low temperatures in the mid to upper 30s over the northern interior, upper 30s to lower 40s along the coast. Tomorrow afternoon, driving moderate to heavy rainfall, areas of flash flooding, urban flooding, visibility below 2 miles at times. It's not the best conditions to go out, and certainly not any outdoor activities. One person asked me if it was okay if they golf on Saturday, and I'm like, basically, if you like golfing in a waterfall, that pretty much does it. Look for high temperatures to range from the lower 40s to lower 50s over the northern interior. Now, there's going to be quite a range between the higher elevations with the lower 40s and the lower elevations with the lower 50s. As you head towards the coast, look for temperatures to range from the mid to upper 50s. Just a raw day out there. So that rain will exit by the time we get to tomorrow evening, tomorrow night into Sunday morning. Skies clear, high pressure builds in, chilly with low temperatures in the lower to mid 20s over the northern interior, upper 20s to lower 30s along the coast. High pressure remains in control on Sunday afternoon, with high temperatures rebounding into the lower to mid 40s over the northern interior, upper 40s to lower 50s along the coast. On Monday, high pressure is in control with sky cloud cover, a bit of a northeasterly wind component here. It could lead to some minor coastal flooding. We'll keep an eye on that. Look for temperatures to range from the lower to mid 20s over the northern interior, upper 20s to lower 30s along the coast, but we begin to moderate with high temperatures in the upper 40s to lower 50s. On Tuesday, high pressure hangs on and shifts towards the Canadian Maritimes. Again, we have that easterly wind component to deal with, so there could be some minor coastal flooding. Look for low temperatures in the upper 20s to lower 30s over the northern interior, lower to mid 30s along the coast. High temperatures in the mid to upper 40s. Again, more of that influence from the Canadian Maritimes. On Wednesday, with that onshore flow and a cold front slowly approaching from the west, there will be increasing cloud cover with some widely scattered showers. Look for low temperatures to range from the mid 30s and high temperatures to range from the mid to upper 40s on the immediate coast, upper 40s to lower 50s everywhere else. On Thursday, opening day for the Mets and the Phillies. Not exactly the best weather conditions. We have a cold front that's slowly moving through with periods of showers. Not convinced yet it's going to be a complete washout, but certainly not the best weather conditions for outdoor activities. We'll keep an eye on this as we get more details. Look for low temperatures in the lower to mid 40s over the northern interior, upper 40s to lower 50s along the coast. High temperatures ranging from the mid to upper 40s over the northern interior, lower to mid 50s along the coast. On Friday, that area low pressure, doesn't this look familiar? Continues to intensify off the southeast coast and sets up the transport of moisture on the coast here. So over the interior, sky cloud cover, maybe a few isolated showers along the coast, periods of showers. Some of these showers could be heavy at times. There's a chance that this gets pushed off the coast and we end up with drier weather conditions here. So we'll see how this plays out. But this is very similar to the setup that we're dealing with right now in terms of the interaction of the short waves and the timing and whatnot. So we'll see how this all plays out on Friday with low temperatures in the mid to upper 30s over the northern interior, lower to mid 40s along the coast, and high temperatures in the mid to upper 40s over the interior and upper 40s to lower 50s along the coast. That is your premium public video forecast discussion for this week. Have a wonderful day, and as always, stay safe out there.